Canadians say they need about $1.7 million to retire comfortably, but most people are nowhere close to that number. According to recent national surveys, that $1.7 million target has been repeated so often that it feels like a rule, but it's not your rule, it's just an average opinion. What if the real question isn't how big is your RRSP, but how much do you actually spend to live a good life? In this video, you'll see a simple way to calculate your number. Maybe it's $600,000, maybe $1.2 million, maybe more, based on your lifestyle, your CPP and OAS, and the kind of retirement you actually want. Let's be honest, a lot of Canadians feel like retirement is slipping out of reach. Surveys show fewer than half of Canadians are confident they'll have enough to retire as planned, and rising prices and housing costs are a big part of that anxiety. Inflation over the last few years has pushed up groceries, gas, and property taxes, and that makes people feel like they're always behind, no matter how much they save. And when people keep hearing you'll need over $1 million to retire, many just shut down. They stop planning, they delay saving, or they tell themselves, I'll be working forever anyway. This video is not about scaring you with big numbers. It's about acting as a guide, breaking the math into something you can actually understand and use, even if you're starting later or don't have a huge portfolio. Here's the big shift. Instead of starting with a random big savings number, start with your lifestyle. Think about a normal year in retirement, living in a place like Barrie or another mid-sized Ontario city. Your mortgage might be gone, commuting costs are lower, but you still have groceries, utilities, property tax or rent, a car, maybe some travel, and spoiling the grandkids. Ask yourself, what would it cost per year to live the way I want, comfortably, not extravagantly? That yearly spending number is far more important than any headline about $1.7 million. Once you know roughly what you want to spend each year, the rest is just simple multiplication and subtraction. Let's pick an example. Say your ideal retirement spending is $50,000 per year after tax. That might cover basics, plus some travel and hobbies for a couple with a paid-off home in many parts of Canada. For some people, that number might be closer to $40,000, especially if they live simply and own their home outright. Others in expensive cities or with big travel plans might be thinking $60,000, $70,000 or more per year. The exact number doesn't have to be perfect. Just choose something realistic based on today's lifestyle. Then you can adjust later for inflation and changes. Write that yearly spending number down. It's the foundation of everything else in this video. Now let's connect that spending to a savings target using a simple guideline called the safe withdrawal rate. A common rule of thumb is that you can withdraw around 4% of your invested portfolio each year and have a decent chance of it lasting 30 years or more, based on historical research. 4% per year is the same as saying you need about 25 times your yearly spending saved. Multiply your yearly spending by 25, and you have a rough target for your investments. Here are a few examples. If you want to spend $40,000 per year, then a rough target is 40,000 times 25 equals $1 million. If you want $50,000 per year, that's 50,000 times 25 equals 1.25 millions. If you want $30,000 per year, that's 30,000 times 25 equals 750,000. For people who want to be extra cautious, especially if they plan to retire in their 50s or are very risk-averse, some planners suggest using 3.5% instead of 4%. That's closer to 28 to 30 times your spending, which just means you'd need a bit more saved for the same lifestyle. Quick pause. Comment below, based on your gut feeling, what yearly spending number feels right for your retirement. $40K, $60K, more. Type the number you're thinking about. Here's where the picture gets a lot less scary. You are not funding retirement from investments alone. Most Canadians will receive CPP, Canada Pension Plan, and OAS, Old Age Security. As of 2025, the maximum CPP payment at age 65 is around $1,433 per month, but the average person who starts at 65 receives closer to $850 per month, or just over $10,000 per year. The maximum OAS payment for someone between 65 and 74 is roughly $725 to $740 per month. So a typical Canadian retiree who worked most of their life in Canada might see something like $19,000 to $20,000 per year combined from CPP and OAS. A couple could potentially be looking at $35,000 to $40,000 per year from government benefits alone if both have decent work histories. Those numbers vary a lot, depending on your contributions, when you start, and how long you've lived in Canada. But the key idea is this: CPP and OAS can cover a chunk of your spending, so your investments don't have to do all the heavy lifting. Does that surprise you? Type yes or no in the comments. Were your guesses for CPP and OAS higher or lower than these ranges? Let's look at some examples. Example 1, single person, $50,000 lifestyle. Spending target, $50,000 per year. Estimated CPP and OAS, $20,000 per year. Gap to be covered by investments, $30,000 per year. Using the 4% rule, 30,000 times 25 equals 750,000. So you'd need about $750,000 in investments to support that lifestyle. Example 2, couple, $60,000 lifestyle. Spending target, $60,000 per year for a couple. Estimated combined CPP and OAS, say $38,000 per year. Gap, $22,000 per year. Using the 4% rule, 22,000 times 25 equals 550,000, so around $550,000 in investments. Notice how different these numbers are from the scary $1.7 million headline. Some households, especially those with paid-off homes and reasonable spending, can have a comfortable retirement on well under $1 million saved, plus CPP, OAS, and maybe a workplace pension. At the same time, if you're renting in a big city, love expensive travel, or plan to retire early, you might genuinely need 7 figures to feel secure. The point is, the right number is personal, based on your life, not a national average. Now you might be wondering, but how does my savings compare to other Canadians? Surveys suggest that Canadians aged 55 to 64 have on average somewhere in the low to mid hundreds of thousands in retirement savings, not millions. One analysis found that total retirement savings for 55 to 64-year-olds averaged around $600,000 to $800,000 when you include RRSPs and other financial assets, while another report focusing only on registered accounts put the average closer to $300,000. The exact figures vary by income level and whether people have pensions. On the confidence side, a BMO study showed the average RRSP balance nationally was around $145,000 in 2022, with Ontario a bit higher at roughly $163,000, and less than half of Canadians felt confident about retiring on track. So if you feel behind or unsure, you're definitely not alone. This is why having your own number, even if it's rough, is incredibly powerful. It turns a vague fear into an actionable plan. Before the homework, a few quick cautions. First, the 4% rule is a guideline, not a guarantee. Investment returns, inflation, and taxes can all shift what's sustainable. Retiring into a bad market or taking too much risk with your portfolio can put more pressure on your nest egg. Second, if you retire early, in your 50s instead of your 60s, you're asking your money to last longer, so a lower withdrawal rate like 3 to 3.5% might be more appropriate. Third, everything we've talked about is in today's dollars. Over time, inflation will push prices higher, but CPP, OAS, and responsible investing are all designed in part to help your income keep up. This video is education, not personalized advice. A financial planner can help you fine-tune these numbers to your specific situation, especially around tax planning and investment strategy. Here's your simple homework you can do tonight to calculate your rough retirement number. Step 1. Write down your ideal yearly retirement spending in today's dollars. Think about housing, food, transportation, health, travel, and fun. Step 2. Multiply that number by about 25. That gives you a ballpark for how much in investments you'd want if you were using a 4% withdrawal rate. Step 3. Estimate your CPP, OAS, and any workplace pension. You can log into your My Service Canada account to see your CPP estimate and check your OAS eligibility. Subtract these annual amounts from your spending target. Step 4. Take what's left, that yearly gap, and multiply that by 25. That's your rough investment target. It won't be perfect, but it's 100 times better than having no number at all. If you do this homework, drop a comment saying done and share, only if you're comfortable, what number you came up with. You might inspire someone else who feels stuck. If this helped make retirement feel a bit less impossible, hit like and share it with a friend or family member who keeps saying, "I'll never be able to retire." Chances are, their situation looks different once you factor in CPP, OAS, and their real spending. Remember, the goal isn't to chase some random national average, it's to build a plan that fits your life in Canada. In the next video, we're going to talk about the number one fear Canadians have in retirement, running out of money, and some practical strategies to reduce that risk, even if you're starting late. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching, and start working on your number tonight.